The program, introduction of panelists, introduction of the software. We have an agenda for an introduction, presentation by Swami, question and answer session will be conducted by myself and Swami, and we'll have some closing comments. Good, introducing the panelists. Let me get this out of the way. We have myself that's responsible for the commercial side of diagnostics. We have Swami who's involved with the pre-sales and consultancy. Geert Weisman is the product manager for diagnostics, and Koen Porteners is the solutions architect for diagnostics. Good, just a little bit about the Zoom software. At the on the menu bar, you have a chat, and with that chat, you can actually ask questions. It will not be interactive. We hope to receive those questions in the chat function. So you have the opportunity to put all of the information here in this area. We have a separate chat node. This is for a technical level on diagnostics. So we have some technical people that are sitting behind the scenes. If you have any technical questions, if you go to, let me just do this. If you go to hashtag #DiagChat, you can then insert your questions about technical questions, not so much on the business or how it's used. Hopefully everybody can get that via the Zoom chat. Good. It will be open for half an hour after the webinar. So even if we're done and you still have questions, there will be people online looking for questions if you have any. Good. So as mentioned, we were present at the GE User Conference Group in Wembley, London. We were at booth number 24. The major announcement, of course, was that we released Diagnostics version 2.0. Swami is going to get a little bit more detailed into that. It was a great show. It was very, very busy for us. And as a result of that particular show, we're conducting this webinar and going to address a lot of the consistent questions that were asked of us during that particular conference. Introduction, Realworld Software Products, Professional Services, Baseline, what does it mean? Out-of-the-box diagnostics and Diagnostics 2.0. Always like to start off with this. This gives everyone an opportunity to understand what the value of diagnostics is. There's a Dutch utility in the Netherlands that were able to use actually avoid slow usage with VPN, saved them 185,000 euros. Another Dutch utility optimized the configuration and implementation of Quality Manager, 230,000 euros per year they save. And a Malaysian utility setting up indexes for their databases saved them $200,000 per year. Good, a direct quote from Annexus, one of our customers, the one specifically about Quality Manager. Diagnostics has shown that Quality Manager is a laborious and time-consuming factor in the registration process. By optimizing this process, we now see in diagnostics that QM activity, as well as the number of reported QM flags, have been halved, which is fantastic news for Annexus. Good, brief discussion about professional services. When we implement diagnostics with a customer, we always provide consulting services with it. This is to help the customer get involved in terms of meeting their particular requirements. We have a baseline definition. It's like a health check. It can be a little bit different. Baseline means you have a 0 point to start with, and you define everything that's necessary for your 0 point. So what is the performance like? What is the usage like? Those are the things that we bring into perspective for you so that you can see exactly how things are performing today. A health check is a little bit different. It will also take a look at how we can improve some of those items, whether you're missing an index, whether there's no usage on particular functionality. In our subscription model, we have managed services. We provide regular reports, whether they be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever you're looking for, we can accommodate you. We have customized services. Those are specific services related to customizations that you've made that are not completely out of the box. So Diagnostics has a lot of things that come out of the box, but then you have, for example, custom draws or customizations, custom methods, whatever. Those are things that we can actually delve into and determine how it's performing, whether it's performing, do we need to change the process, those types of things. We have a training service and we have an after analysis service. In other words, when we do find problems, Realworld can also help you with respect to fixing those problems in your code. Good, I'm going to hand it over to Swami. Swami's going to do a presentation and look forward to seeing the questions as they crop up later on. Thank you.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Swami and welcome to the webinar. I would like to start this webinar by providing you a brief introduction to our product. Diagnostics is a big database solution which is built on top of Smallworld and tracks everything that happens inside Smallworld. So every single user click, every single database transaction, map activity that is done in Smallworld is tracked by Diagnostics, is then processed and made available in this easy to understand dashboards. So using these dashboards, Diagnostics helps administrators to identify bottlenecks in Smallworld. So these insights can then be used to make changes in Smallworld to make users more productive and improve their overall Smallworld experience. So I would like to add here that Diagnostics is capable of tracking the user's activities anonymously. So it can be configured to ensure that no user specific information is collected as part of the tracking. Also, Diagnostics is designed to track or to collect only user behavioral Smallworld data. So it doesn't collect any asset or network related data. So if you look at performance tracking and analysis, which is done in utilities and telcos, they are traditionally done in silos. So whenever a client wants to identify a performance bottleneck for a generation of a particular report or of a particular tool in Smallworld, they usually end up creating these customized dashboards, which provides them details of the performance of various functions which are being called in the backend. So these details are then documented onto a log file or a flat file. And because these custom tools work in silos, it is very difficult for clients to cross-reference these data while doing the root cause analysis of the performance bottlenecks. What this means is, say, for example, a client identifies through their customized tracking, they identify that there is a particular query which takes a lot of time. It is still difficult for them to get answers to questions such as, how often is this query executed in Smallworld, or what are the Smallworld functionals which are getting directly affected because of this particular query. So the way Diagnostics solves this problem is that it brings all these silos together into a single integrated smart analytical platform. So most of the trackers that are required to identify, analyze, and resolve the performance bottlenecks in a traditional Smallworld or in a regular Smallworld are provided out of box in Diagnostics. So this means that clients do not have to invest time in creating any custom trackers and can go directly to the analysis part. Also in Diagnostics, data from one tracker can be synergized with data from other trackers to create more complex and insightful dashboards. Okay, so one very common question that we get asked is, if Diagnostics is tracking everything that is happening inside Smallworld, it must affect the user experience of Smallworld, right? The answer to that question is no, it doesn't. Out of box, Small World has no impact whatsoever on the user experience. The way it makes it happen is very, very simple. The data once generated by Diagnostics are put on a queue and are then sent out as soon as Diagnostics senses an idle time in Small World. Say, if I were to put this into perspective, imagine a user is going to query an object on the object editor, and then he is going to click on the go to button. So as soon as he clicks on the get button, there are two events which are generated. The first one is that of the get button being clicked, and the second one is of the query which got executed in the backend. So, and both these events are then placed in a queue inside Small World. And once this operation is completed, and just before the user is about to click on the go to button, Diagnostics senses this millisecond of idle time and immediately sends out this data that is stored in the queue. And that is how Diagnostics is able to track everything that is happening inside Small World without having any impact on the user experience. Okay, so the agenda for today's webinar would be as follows. I would begin by talking about how Diagnostics can help clients and their administrators to bring their Small World installations as close to the out-of-box solution as possible. And then I will showcase how administrators can baseline the performance of critical parameters or critical functions in Small World. Next, I will give a brief on the role Diagnostics can play in helping administrators measure the performance gain that a particular upgrade or a particular customization has delivered. In the end, I will introduce you to our latest version of Diagnostics 2.0 and the user portal. And since this particular agenda that we have for the day seems to fit very nicely into an upgrade story, I'm going to use that as a premise. Okay, so if for any utility who are planning to do their upgrade, planning phase of the upgrade is one of the crucial phases of the project. So the main objective of here is for the utilities and telcos to classify all the functionalities which are available in Small World, especially their custom functions, into one of these three buckets. The first bucket is the retire bucket. Here, functionalities which are very rarely used are placed. So these functions are, as part of the upgrade, these functions will be decoupled from the Small World The second bucket is the upgrade bucket. Here, functionalities which are regularly used by the users and do not have any significant problems, any significant performance bottlenecks, they are placed on this bucket. This would go directly to the next version. And the third bucket is the improve bucket. So here, functionalities which are used by the users but have bottlenecks or have errors or bugs in it, they are placed in this particular bucket. And the performance of these functions are improved as part of the upgrade. So this classification is usually done by having this long sessions with users from different departments and classifying functionalities one by one. And since the data that is gathered as part of these sessions are directly from the user experience, they tend to be user biased. So what this means is, if there is a user who might say that this function, we never use this function, whereas for a user from other department might say, yes, we do use it maybe once in a month or once in a couple of months. So what the administrators end up doing with these type of functions is they end up retaining them just to be on the safer side. So the way Diagnostics helps here is that since it tracks everything from day one, it already has the data of the functions of all of the functions which are rarely used, which have problems, and which do not have problems. So Diagnostics can provide clients with dashboards such as these. You can see the first one on the top. It tells me about the database transactions that are taking a lot of time to get executed. This might be because of a significant number of business rules or custom business rules which are governing the database operation. So as part of the upgrade, the client might take a look at how to make these database transactions more efficient. The second one talks about the most used functions. And the third one talks about the business processes that are taking a lot of time to compile. So with dashboards such as these, Diagnostics allows clients to skip all the intermediate sessions with the users and allows them to go directly to the classification part. And one very, very crucial difference between the traditional way of planning versus the diagnostics way of planning is that the decisions that clients make using diagnostics are backed by the user behavioral data and are hence not by us. So administrators can use these type of readily available dashboards, and then they can filter out the functions which are very rarely used within their small world, decouple them, thereby allowing them to bring their small world installation that much closer to the out-of-box solution. So once the functionalities have been categorized, the next step for a utility or a telco to do is to baseline the performance of these crucial parameters or crucial functions. So the challenges that the utilities and the telcos they face in this particular task is, one, they have to have a concise list of functions which are critical to the effective use of their small world system. And the second, they have to identify ways in which they can measure the performance of these functions. The measurement is usually done by the customized silos, which I talked about a bit earlier, and by having sessions or the discussions with the end users. But with diagnostics, however, these information again are readily available. So clients do not have to invest any time in actually doing the baselining. So diagnostics already does that for the clients with dashboards such as the one you see on top, which talks about the time that it takes for the 10 most used query to be executed, or say the time that it takes for a particular set of reports or most used reports to be generated, or this one which is talking about the time that it takes for a particular set of web services to be executed. So with diagnostics in place, all client has to do is take a look at these dashboards and document the pre-upgrade performance of the critical functions. Also, these dashboards that you see and any dashboard that is available in diagnostics, along with their statistical data, can be exported onto a PDF, which the clients can then attach to their baseline performance reports. Okay. So now, so you have used diagnostics to classify the different functions in small world and identify the ones that need performance improvement. And then you have gone ahead and you have measured the baseline performance of each of these functions. The next step and you have managed to, complete your upgrade project as well. Okay. So now the next step that a client has to do is to analyze whether or not this particular upgrade has delivered any improvements in the functions which were identified as part of the baseline. So the way diagnostics helps here, here is to allow clients to build dashboards such as these, which can compare the performance, pre-upgrade performance with the post-upgrade performance of different functions. The one that you see here is comparing the performance in the development and testing, and these can be changed or this can be customized any way the client wants. It can be testing to QA, testing to pre-production, pre-upgrade to post-upgrade, just about anything. So similar dashboards can be built to measure the performance improvement of wide range of small world functions and queries or reports or web services, just anything that diagnostics is tracking. Okay, so with that, we have come to the last section of the webinar, Diagnostics 2.0. We announced the release of diagnostics of our latest version during the Wembley Summit, as John mentioned. And here are a few exciting things that we have to offer with our latest version. The first one is Diagnostics 2.0 is fully cloud compatible. So while clients still can opt for an on-premise solution, with the current version of diagnostics, clients can choose to move to cloud for their analytical needs. And being cloud compatible also means that analysts such as us can analyze the user behavioral data from anywhere in the world remotely, and this using proper authentication, of course. So this means that even if you want us to take a look at, or want us or anyone to take a look at the data gathered by Diagnostics, the clients do not have to provide them access to their environment. We can analyze the behavior remotely and share our insights with you. Also, with Diagnostics 2.0, we have done away with an intermediate staging database. So in the previous version, we had an Oracle or a MySQL database, which was an intermediate database. So the data which was generated from Small World was stored in Oracle, was sent to Oracle, which was acting as a temporary holding database for the data, and then it used to move to Splunk. So what we have done is we have removed this portion, and now the data directly goes from Small World to Splunk via web services. So what this means is now there is a far less infrastructural overhead which is attached to the Diagnostics. And the last one is an improved scalability, which means Diagnostics 2.0 is designed in a way to make sure that the performance that it delivers is always in line with your user base. So it doesn't matter if you have tens, hundreds, or thousands of users, the performance will always be linear and it will always be in line with your user database or user base, sorry. Right. And lastly, we have our user portal. So over the years that we have been working with our clients, a very important lesson that we have learned is that the Small World ecosystem with clients is constantly evolving, and they are getting new products, they are developing new functions, and next thing you know, they want to be able to monitor the performance of these functions, these new products. So the way Diagnostics is designed to adapt to this constant change is by allowing clients to have a framework which through which they can build their own custom dashboards, place custom trackers on the custom functions. And building custom dashboards in Diagnostics is very, very easy. And in fact, many of our customers regularly build custom dashboards and to monitor different custom functions which they have introduced in Small World. So we at Realworld, what we did is we looked at this growing interest among our customers to build these dashboards, and we wanted to create a platform wherein our different customers can come together and share their dashboards, their custom dashboards which they built. And this was how we came up with the user portal. Let me just quickly open that over here. Right. So we released it, I think, a few months ago, and we already have clients and our own team who have been submitting their custom built dashboards. And what happens after they submit is we do a quick validation of the logic of the code which is running in the backend. Once it's approved, we upload it to this particular portal. So this is the portal that you see, and there is a section here for custom modules. Let me go there. And as you can see, there are a lot of functions which are, some of them are built by us, some of them are built by our clients. A good example is the merge and post. This is one of the most commonly used custom dashboards. Many of our clients use it to analyze this dashboard allows clients to track the conflicts which are happening as part of the merging and posting. So if, say, for example, if there is a data loss, which happens quite often because of the way users handles a conflict, clients can always use dashboards, this particular dashboard, to take a look at what were the conflicts and how they were resolved and so on. And then we have the super file monitor, for example. This was developed by us. And what this does is it gives you, it's a kind of a panoramic view of the size of different data sets and whether or not you want to add a super file to it. It gives you report on analysis on how soon based on the trend trend of growing data which is being inserted into a particular data set. It analyzes that and gives you a summary on how soon your data set size will expire and how soon you would have to add a super file to it. So with dashboards such as these, you can, our clients, what they do is they build this and they share it over here. This portal also has a link to the videos and our previous webinars that we conducted. So here is us announcing 2.0. Here is Koen, our architect, who did a presentation on 2.0 in the recently held Wembley. And then we have webinars which we did around data issues. We did it around how to use diagnostics to make business processes more efficient and so on. So all this are available here. I believe we will be sharing this link. You can check the chat. We will be sharing that link with you. You can click on that link and you can go here and you can check out the custom modules that we have. You can check out, find more information on Diagnostics 2.0. You can find the webinars that we did previously. Right. So with that, I guess, yeah, with that, I come to the end of today's webinar. I hope you guys found this insightful, and I believe that you too will one day shine the beacon. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Swami. Good. We're coming to the question and answer period right now. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you a quick question to start off the question and answer period. And that is, for customers that had previous versions of Diagnostics and they want to upgrade to the new version of Diagnostics, what does that really mean for them?
It means a lot. One thing is, as I mentioned, there are two major things that we have introduced. The one thing is the ability to go to the cloud, which means that if clients want to move to the cloud, they don't have, and they want to use our analytical services, then they don't have to provide us access to their environment. We can sit in our office and we can analyze the data and share it with them. That's one of the major advantages that many of our clients like. And the second one is the lesser overhead infrastructure. So the current clients who have the current version, they will be using Oracle as the intermediate database where the data from Small World is temporarily stored. With 2.0, they don't have to worry about that, and they can, Diagnostics will send the information directly to Splunk using web services.
Great. And for those people on the webinar, you can use the Zoom webinar chat to insert your questions, and we'll try and get a response to you during this session. I have another question for you, Swami, while we continue. There are a lot of companies out there looking to migrate from 4 to 5 in Small World.
Yeah. Yes.
So when we talk about baseline, what does that mean? How are we helping them with that migration? Yeah, you talked a little bit about usage. Are there other aspects that you can think of?
Yeah, see, baselining, what I mentioned was as you are right. I just talked a brief about what baselining is. With Diagnostics, it's kind of, you have a God's eye view of your Small World system. So you have insights. You can visualize just about everything that is happening inside Small World. So when we look at baselining, which is usually done as part of the planning phase. So what happens there is, there are two things that needs to happen. One is customers, they have to identify what are the functions that I need to baseline. The second one they have to do is what are the measurement parameters? How do I baseline this? Do I customize it? Do I talk to a user to understand whether or not he has a problem? So these two are the primary things that Diagnostics helps with. The clients can just take a look at the dashboards and, instead of having these long sessions, one, to identify where they need to concentrate, what are the queries that they need to concentrate on, what are the most used functions that they need to concentrate on, web services which are slow, business processes which can be made more efficient, which phases of business processes which are taking a lot of time. So once they have this in line, once they have the list from diagnostics on what they have to track, they can again use diagnostics to identify what are the performance, how is the performance of these critical functions that my users seem to use more often. And using these two insights, they can then make an informed decision on where they have to focus their upgrade efforts on.
Okay, good information. Still waiting for some more questions, but in the meantime, I just quickly wanted to address one of the points that you brought up, specifically out of merge and post. When you're doing merging and posting, there's a potential for an awful lot of conflicts.
Yes.
What has been the experience that you have seen with respect to customers trying to resolve those conflicts?
Yeah. So one, I think if I were to state a good example, it would be from one of our customers named Cox Communications in US. They had a big data problem, which data was lost in their network, and they used diagnostics to do a root cause analysis. They were so impressed by how the way diagnostics was able to give them insights. They decided to present a paper in the recently held US summit, explaining how diagnostics, help them get insights on what is going on. Was it there? Because there are a lot of questions when you have a data loss. It's not just conflicts. It can be a user is not informed. A user doesn't know how to handle a conflict. It can be there are too many designs which are cropping up in that particular area. It can be just about anything. Conflicts is one of them, but it's not the only one. So in case of Cox, also they also understood that there are multiple dimensions to the reasons why data might be lost, and they use diagnostics to help them come to the root cause analysis. And we did manage to record that video, and I think that is available with us. We can share it. People who are part of this webinar, they can take a look at the Cox presentation later. We will share that link as well.
Yeah. Good. I have another question that's come up. What about checkpoints?
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what happened? What can we do with diagnostics and helping customers with checkpoints?
Right. So, okay, the base of diagnostics is that if it is happening inside small world, it can be tracked by diagnostics. It can be. I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of answers which might come up. It's just that diagnostics is able to track everything that is happening inside a small world. So if you take checkpoints, if there is a rollback which is being done, if there are too many checkpoints which are there, which are not used for a very long time, diagnostics can give you details on each one of these aspects. So you can use, say, if usually when clients try to reduce the size of their databases, they can take a look at diagnostics and identify checkpoints which have not been used for a very, very long time, or they can identify business process or functions which are creating these checkpoints just to be on the safer side, and then these checkpoints just stick in the system and are causing the database size to grow. So because it's happening inside small world, diagnostics has a direct vision to it. It can look at it and it can inform the clients that, hey, this is what is happening inside your system.
Good. And to that end, if we get to a high amount of checkpoints or a high amount of activity of some sort, does diagnostics provide any kind of alerting?
Yeah, it does. Actually, with this, if you take a look at one of the things that we are working on, diagnostics, first of all, can be configured to send emails to pre-configured set of users whenever a particular event happens. Say, for example, say a good example would be adding a file to a data set. Say your data set size is growing and growing, and it has hit, say, 80% of the capacity. So you can configure Diagnostics to send out email to your database administrators informing him, hey, by the way, this is your data set, this particular data set has already hit 80%. You might want to schedule a session. You might want to schedule a session where you add the super file to it. It can also inform the administrator, and by analyzing the trend of data, the size of database which is growing, it can analyze them and tell them that your data set, now it is at 80%, and to reach 100%, it will take on an average of, say, 20 days or 30 days. And this comes directly from the user behavior.
Okay, great. Good. We have another question. How easy is it to customize Diagnostics?
It's very, very easy. Extremely easy to customize Diagnostics. As you saw, we have a lot of customers who do it on a very regular basis for small functions, for large functions. It varies on how deep the clients want to go. It's as simple as adding the method to an XML to as detailed as creating your own custom tracker on what are the things that you need to track. It's quite easy, and customers usually do it on their own, and the ones that they want to share, they share it on the custom portal.
So I have an interesting question. It looks like I'm going to have to answer this one. How much is Diagnostics? For those companies that are interested, we provide, let me start with I actually answered that in a slide coming up. So you caught me a little bit off guard there. But what I will say is that there's a subscription model, there is a leasing model, there is a purchasing model. We look at the total number of named users per customer, and we can go, we determine a price from there. So we actually look specifically at the customer requirements and go from there. Furthermore, there is always consulting available from us, which I'll delve into one more time. And we think that it's really handy that you also use some of our consulting activities and analysis activities to help you get started down the right track and know how to move forward as you begin to use Diagnostics on a regular basis. And that's really the key. It's not just using Diagnostics temporarily, it's using Diagnostics as a monitoring tool that you can consistently gain control of your GE Small World environment. Good. I have a question, another question. How safe is the data on the cloud?
Yeah, and actually this was the first question that we answered when we decided to move on the cloud. Data on the cloud is very, very safe. So the incoming new events which Diagnostics generate are, first of all, there are multiple levels of security that we have designed into the latest version. The first one is the data which is sent by Diagnostics to Splunk are encrypted in HTTPS package. The second one is the dashboards for data analysis are also accessible only over secure HTTPS channels. The data is stored if you go with our option, it is stored in the Amazon cloud, which by default provides a very high data security and availability. And always, access to these dashboards are restricted by a username and password, which is shared only, which is known only to you.
Yeah. So that said, Swami, are customers required to be on an Amazon cloud, for example?
Not really. They can choose their own cloud. That's what with Diagnostics 2.0, it's very, very flexible. Although we do have a Diagnostics cloud, which is out of box, which we deliver, the clients can go with their own cloud. They can go with an on-premise solution. It doesn't really matter. The Diagnostics delivers the same performance, same insights, regardless of which option the client decides to go with.
Yeah, so that means that their data, if it's in an internal cloud, is actually very secure because it's within their own internal infrastructure. Correct. I have another question. Can we have a demo version? Well, we don't necessarily provide demo versions. What we do is we do provide 3-month trials, a minimum 3-month trial. It can be longer if you wish. In that 3-month trial, we actually ask the customer to define 3 issues of concern. And based on those 3 issues of concern, we provide a report based on the data that we acquire and analyze and identify where we believe the bottlenecks or problems to be. And basically, it's a defendable decision because the data proves exactly what's going on. So the commitment is very low, but it gives you a chance to see the return on investment that you'll get from diagnostics. And that's really the key. So you get a benefit, we get a benefit, everybody wins. Good. Swami, we're getting close to the end of our presentation, our webinar. So I'm going to close. Oh, we've got one more. One more question. Can one track all database objects over their life cycle? Insert, update, delete. By whom and when it happens?
Yeah, why not? In fact, how long? In fact, from which machine? Where was it slow? Was it fast? What was the query that was performed? Data, business rules which were executed, which slowed it down. Just about everything. As long as as I said, as long as it happens inside small world, diagnostics can track it.
Yeah, and I think probably that's one of the things that we should identify historically, or the data and how long you store it for. So for example, do we want to store data for a year? Do we want to store data, say, previous from a migration to 4.3 to 5? Those types of things. Can you talk a little bit about how long we would store that data and the cycle that's involved with that?
It's usually customers' preference how long they want to do it. Say if they are planning for an upgrade, which is traditionally where they take a look at their historical data. What they do is we tend to tell them that usually somewhere between 6 months to 8 months is when they can get a really good understanding, really good set of different data, different user behaviors, which can give them a panoramic view of everything that can ever happen or is currently happening inside small world. So usually it's that long. But if you are regularly using it, maybe after upgrade, you don't have to. It's totally up to the clients. They can decide how long they want to use it.
Yeah, and to that end, Swami, maybe it might even be handy for 12 months because then you can take into account seasonal changes and how that affects different utility organizations.
Of course.
Yeah. Good. I'm going to quickly finish off the webinar. I'd like to thank all the participants. And the questions, let me just quickly go back to the PowerPoint.
Before that, I'll just quickly mention that the technical lines are still open. So if you guys have anything that you thought of during now from after the webinar, we are still available for half an hour after the webinar as well.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. And what I just described in the question and answer session, I had it on a slide here for you. We offer a trial period, so you can trial diagnostics for 3 months or longer, depending on the issues that you want to resolve. You define 3 areas to resolve, and you receive an analysis with the outcomes. The actual purchasing or usage mechanisms are a subscription model, a purchase model, and a lease model. And for this particular webinar, we have a couple of other webinars coming, but we have an offer. The first customer deciding to move forward with our cloud solution will receive 5 days of free consulting, and that expires as of December the 14th, 2018. Good. Go really quickly review the professional services that Realworld can provide. As I mentioned before, the health check, a baseline definition, getting a holistic view of your GE Small World implementation and how it's used, the performance, and getting that in perspective getting the granular information so that you can bring it in perspective. Really, really interesting. Managed services, whereby Realworld will be involved with providing those regular reports and the alerting. Customized services, dig deep into business processes, customizations. We offer support services around it. You can consider it, for example, as a monitoring tool, an M&S requirement. Training, so you don't always have to be dependent on Realworld. We can provide training so that you can work independently. And of course, after analysis services, fix the problems, because when we find problems, we can identify which index is not set, those types of things, and help you improve the complete Small World implementation. Good. A reminder, www.diagnosticsincontrol.com. That is the website. On that website, you'll have a link to the portal. If you go to the chat, you can copy the links to the website, so you can go there and kind of peruse a little bit, see the webinars and the custom modules. If you have any specific questions, again, we have that chat line open. Otherwise, you can use info@diagnosticsincontrol.com. And I just got a quick note here. Oh, I can't see it. Technicians are online for 30 minutes. Indeed, thank you. And we look forward to following up with each and every one of you to help you with your GE Small World implementation. And that is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for participating. Bye-bye.